welcome to Elevation Talk. I'm so excited to be hosting you today. My name is Prophetess Njifia Mwale, and I'll be talking you into your next level. I hope you are ready. I know it's been a while, we've been away for a second, we've been trying to improve the quality of our production, so bear with us. I'm really just excited to be here, and I have a hot African topic. And I feel like a lot of times we don't get to talk about African history and the things that we should have been taught at school, like I always say. But this person we're going to be talking about today, very important, I don't want to call him character as if he didn't exist or as if he was fictional, but very important individual. And the reason he's important is because we look at Africa mostly as a democratic place. We forget that we had our own monarchies and our own kings that we had way before the British came and told us their way of governance. So I'm really excited to be talking about this man, and you'll never guess who he is. Okay, so it is Haile Selassie, okay? Haile Selassie, I know you've heard of this name, you've seen the Haile Selassie festivals, the Rastafarians doing their thing and talking about him. But I feel like he has a very significant part in African history, and we cannot talk about Pan-Africanists without talking about him. And this man, he was brilliant, and we're going to put up his pictures. He was brilliant. He was the king of Ethiopia, right? And he was the 225th emperor of Ethiopia. I want to say that because, bear in mind, America's only had 45 presidents, but he was 225 in line for being king and emperor. That goes to show how way back Africans have had monarchs and have had kings from way back before anybody even started doing what we were doing. And sometimes there's certain systems that you don't really know where they came from. We're told they come from the West, but did they really? Or were they taken from us? The reason he's so significant is because he shows, number one, his opulence as a king. And you can see in the pictures how he's dressed. This guy was 100% regal. He was a proper king. He wore crowns of gold, so put together. And he was nothing beneath. And if you didn't know, we actually have pictures. We're going to insert them here. Allegedly that Queen Elizabeth, okay, but the evidence will show you. Queen Elizabeth, this is the only person she's ever bowed to as another king. And a lot of times you hear that, oh, she's never bowed to anybody, but the pictures showing her sitting, number one, next to him. Number two, so meaning she traveled to Ethiopia. Number two, she was bowing and curtsying in front of him, honoring his kingship, right? So they know something. Like, some of these people don't just do things unless they know what they are doing. And I feel like she understood his significance as a king in Africa and probably what he brought to life. Fun fact. Did you know that that scene in, what's that movie again? Coming to America. Do you remember when the king of Zamunda steps out and the rose petals? That is actually, I've seen live footage of Haile Selassie having like petal, girls throwing petals all over where he was walking. So when I say he was regal and opulent, I really mean it. Okay, so that's just, on the surface. But Haile Selassie, may his soul rest in peace, was allegedly murdered. A lot of times we hear that, he died at his house. So there's always a debate about how he died, because other reports say one thing and other reports say another thing. So I'm quickly just gonna rush to my laptop just to look at just to give you facts. So he was born in 1892, right? July 23rd, 1892, and he died in August 27th, 1975 in Addis Ababa. So this king, to me, it's important that we talk about him because he did some very significant things. Haile Selassie was the only king or African leader at the time who was able to go to the European Union. Now I'm saying this because at this time when this is when Africa was being colonized by the Western powers, right? But this man is the only black king that was given audience in the European Union. He stood there and he presented his case. And I'll put a link just for you guys to watch the footage where he was actually declaring in the European Union. He was saying to them, he was asking for help from them because Italy had come into Ethiopia trying to colonize Ethiopia, right? And they came obviously with their weapons and they were killing people. They actually went ahead and allegedly killed about 300 priests, because if you don't know the history of Ethiopia, it's built on a very staunch Christianity foundation. So up to now, apparently I hear the church owns a huge percentage of the land in Ethiopia because they treated priesthood as second to the monarch, right? So they went and they bombed 300 priests allegedly, and when they killed them, I hear he was so devastated. But because he had connections with the Queen of England, somehow he managed to find himself in the European Union Council, and he went to present his case as an African black king. He was being bullied by racists and booed, right? There's live footage of this, and I like what he said in the end. He said to them, "Today it's me, tomorrow it will be you." Because those are facts, right? One day you need one country, you never know what happens to them the next day. And you see how the West have always depended on Africa for mineral wealth and mineral support. And we've been there. I like what Ama Ata says in one of her documentaries. She says everything the West is us. Because we gave them these minerals, we gave them the gold, we gave them the copper, we gave them the rubber. Look at Leopold, we gave them everything that they had to start and stock up. So they were ahead of us by getting from us. Had it been fair trade, I think both Africa would not be known for having so many third world countries. However, I want to go back and talk about Haile Selassie's background and his family, his lineage. So like I said, he was the 225th emperor. However, it was rumored that his great-grandfather, right? This is interesting. His great-grandmother, was actually Queen Sheba, and his great-grandfather was King Solomon. And that's why he's known to have come from the lineage of, they say he came from the lineage of Solomon and Queen Sheba, who visited Solomon for about 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, right? So she traveled all the way from Ethiopia to meet Solomon, and ended up having a son by Solomon, who ended up being an ancestor of Haile Selassie. Now when I say Haile Selassie, that's the title. So Haile Selassie is like saying King So-So, right? Or Mata Kazembe. It's like kind of like the same thing. His real name is Ras Tafari. And that's where the Rastafarians come from, basically, because they worshipped him as a god. Because, I mean, look, this man was regal. I can see how anybody can think that, he's some type of a god. Ethiopia is the only country that were not necessarily colonized per se. They were invaded, but I don't see it enough to say that they were colonized. So they are the only people who we can say were never colonized. But Italy invaded them for 5 years, and in that 5 years, Rastafari had to be in hiding. He was in the UK. Apparently, he was very sick because he was hiding underground, and the cold really affected his health. And some freedom fighters fought against the Italians, and the Italians ended up leaving. Because I always wondered, like, where were the Italians when people were scrambling for Africa? But no, Mussolini tried apparently, and it just didn't work out the way that they thought it would work out. And if you know that the Italians, the Romans, they're also known for having a Christian background. So I don't want to say for sure that I know, but this could have been the issue, knowing that they were invading a country that was so deep into like Christian foundation, and coming from a Christian background, maybe that helped for some reason. So Rastafari was his name. Now I want to address something. A lot of times people in the Rastafari community have called him a god, but he was put on record. He was put on record saying he does not want to be worshipped. Haile Selassie refused all the rumors of him being the son of God or being some type of a god, and he repeatedly said, "I am just a man." and I do not want to be worshipped. But however, you know, when people make up their mind to do something, they just went ahead and did what they wanted to do. No shade to the Rastafarians, okay? Don't come for me. But anyway, so he tried to tell them, and it's even rumored that he actually sent some priests from Ethiopia to go to Jamaica and begin to minister the gospel of Jesus Christ, so that he could turn around some of those Rastafarians to Christianity as opposed to them worshiping him. So yeah, so anyway, the Italians invaded his country, and he had audience with the European Union. He went there and he tried to fight for his country. The only black man who's ever been known, especially in those days, to go to the EU and be able to fight for his country. As if that wasn't enough, he was bullied and he was sent away. They didn't render much help, but this triggered something. This is why traveling and meeting people, having a network is important, having exposure. Because some of you may not know that the African Union you talk about, the original one, the Organization of African Union, was actually founded by Rastafari, the Haile Selassie himself. He founded it. So he went ahead and said, okay guys, I went to the EU, they didn't help us because why? They're obviously looking out for their member states. And he said African leaders come together, all those who had gained independence, and he put them in a group and he said, let's open our own African Union. And that's how OAU started, before it actually turned out being AU. So he created that body. He was a true Pan-Africanist, and I appreciate that about him. And also I love how he was so big on education. He was so big on education because he realized that we needed an educated people, and not that our culture was bad, but we needed to know how our enemy thinks, right? Those who are coming in and colonizing our countries, we needed to understand their thinking so that we were able to, at least fight back or have some type of victory. So he introduced a lot of schools. Education was free in Ethiopia for many, many years, and he was very big on education. He was known for going into schools and encouraging children. And though a lot of Ethiopians were not happy, not a lot, but some Ethiopians who were a bit conservative were not very happy with this situation happening, because they felt like, look, why are we trying to become like the West? But he was big, and he sponsored many schools. He opened many schools and created curriculums for them, just to make sure that people were educated. And he went in very rural areas as well and established schools for the people to have, so that they're able to get an education. So he was big. One of his biggest legacies is actually education. However, there's a rumor around the ending of his life, which is very unfortunate. You know what bothers me? After he dies, we all know how a monarchy is, right? After he dies, nobody succeeded him. Nobody succeeded him, and we obviously know where the influence was coming from. If you don't, stay tuned to Elevation Talk, you'll be woke in no time, okay? So nobody succeeded him. How do we go from having a 225th emperor to not having another one? And it's rumored that he was killed, and yes, allegedly that he was killed. Some say that he had health issues, but apparently the person who ordered his death was allegedly Mengistu. I hope I pronounced that correctly, and who was known to have taken refuge in Zimbabwe and given asylum by President Mugabe. If you're wondering why, he had supported them in their freedom fight against the British, so they kind of like owed him one. I think he provided people to fight, as well as asinary for Zimbabwe to be able to get their freedom. So they kind of like owed him one, and they were able to take him into Zimbabwe. And they've been called, people have been calling and saying, now that Mugabe is dead, why don't we get justice for the Haile Selassie Rastafari? Apparently his whole family allegedly was shot out, like just killed. Okay, they were taken outside and just shot, and that's why you don't really see anybody really just following suit. I do know he had a son, he had some children, but I can imagine the kind of duress that they went through, and the intimidation from other parties who were interested in Ethiopia. So I thought it was interesting that we needed to speak about him, and his relationship with the Queen has never been clear. I know that for Queen Elizabeth to curtsy, there must have been some type of treaty, or allegedly, or some type of agreement that they might have had. Who knows what their relationship was based on? But I do not see her traveling all the way from London to Ethiopia for no reason. There was a reason why she was there. There was a reason why he was given audience by the European Union. There's a reason for everything. So folks, that's one of our Pan-Africanists that I wanted to decide, and a lot of them called him Lion of Judah because obviously he had tamed lions that he had on his properties, and he was known for being around those animals. So there's always that misconception, and that's how come you can see the religious confusion came in. But all in all, he was a great man, and may his soul rest in peace. And I am so happy that he believed in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And wherever you're watching this from, I want you to know that all Africans are royalty. We come from lineages of royalty, and don't ever be made to feel less by other societies who haven't understood our cultures or who took opportunities for us to know our history. My name is Prophetess Njifia Mwale, getting you woke one video at a time. Thank you. Don't forget to share this. Don't forget to share this right now with 5 people. Thank you so much for subscribing. Shalom, shalom.